And we're here with State Senate Republican leader Aric Nesbitt. Senator Nesbitt, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's start right out of the gate. How goes your candidacy for governor?
Well, we're making it around the state. Believe me, it's a big one, going from Marquette to Monroe and New Buffalo to Alpena. There's a lot in between, and so that's why this week we're starting our tractor town hall tour. We're going to be starting the first stop in beautiful Cassopolis, Michigan, on Friday, May 30th at Moser Well Drilling. That's at 21867 M60 in Cassopolis, and so there'll be a town hall where I'll be able to listen to folks and what they have to say, and also talk about my vision for the state and vision for the future.
Yeah, you named the tour the Tractor Town Hall Tour. Apologies if I don't have that exactly right, but tractor's in the name, so I'm thinking you're relying on a certain segment of the population for some support.
Well, I'm looking at taking a little time to get between stops. Between the first stop is in Cassopolis, and then the next one's Centerville, and we're going to make our way across the state on over to Dundee, Michigan. So part of it is that growing up on a sixth-generation dairy and grape farm here in Southwest Michigan, I understand the importance of rural Michigan, the importance of our way of life, and how it's under threat right now here in rural Michigan. And 70 out of the 83 counties in Michigan are either rural or mostly rural, and that's 84% of our state. And so there's a lot of these small communities that I think are left behind or forgotten about. And I want to spend some time, especially this early in the campaign, to sit down and listen to folks, whether they're small business owners, seniors, families across the state, and listen to them and engage them and talk about really my rural agenda for working Michigan.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that? What is your rural agenda?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen over the last few years, you've had Lansing ideologues push through what I call the Green New Scam, which is going to industrialize 300,000 acres of farm and forest land around the state, create energy that's less reliable, while also wiping away hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland. Government, I think, forcing our students into this one-size-fits-all education policy that's preventing opportunities for vocational education. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is something we should easily come together on, is saying that in high school, we need to redo and do away with the Michigan Merit Curriculum to make sure that students are provided the opportunities of whether they want to go into the trades or onto college. Make it up to them and have their choice. And let's get back to basics in elementary school instead of what we've seen. Let's get back to saying that by third grade, people should be reading at grade level, figure out what kind of support systems need to happen around there. Get back to phonics, the science of reading. This is something Mississippi did 10 years ago, and they've skyrocketed in their rankings and making sure that students are able to learn. Then we've seen over the last few years, whether it's infrastructure and access to broadband or local roads that have been forgotten about, trying to get re-engagement and reconcentration on local infrastructure in our rural areas.
Yeah, and I've always learned that you can really tell an entity's priorities by taking a look at its budget. Budgets have recently been approved in Lansing. Do they reflect what rural America needs? Or at least rural Michigan?
Yeah, unfortunately, what we've seen out of this the last few years' budgets is instead of looking at the whole state, that you've seen, I think about 95% of the legislative directed spending going into Democrat districts. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. We all need to be at the table here in Michigan. And also the cost of living, whether you're in rural Michigan or urban Michigan or suburban, I think the cost of living continues to be a real challenge, whether it's a cost of insurance or property taxes. Let's get back to basics and trying to get a little relief and break for working families. Then also, I think spending some time and listening to the voices around rural Michigan, I think is going to be very important. So I'm going to be starting off on this Friday, May 30th, in Cassopolis at Moser Well Drilling. That's anybody's invited. Love to meet some of your listeners, and also discuss some of the issues that are the toughest issues that we're going to have to tackle in the state if we're going to become more dynamic, a growing state, and a better educated state.
Yeah, the Mackinac Policy Conference is happening this week. Are they hitting on the right issues? Where is Michigan going as a state? Are we growing?
Yeah, unfortunately, we shrunk in the first decade of this century. We grew in the second decade. If we continue down the status quo over the next 30 years, some state demographers say we could lose up to 700,000 people in the state of Michigan net. So we go from a state of about 10 million to a state of 9.3 million. And this is the importance of why we need to shake things up in Lansing, is that if we continue down the status quo, our schools are going to get worse off, our students are going to get less educated, our roads aren't going to get fixed, and there's going to be less opportunities for our children and grandchildren here in Michigan. And so unfortunately what we've seen is, I think, putting in education in the back seat. We need to put that in the front seat. We need to make sure that we lower the cost of living for working Michiganders, and we need to also get back to basics, faith, family, freedom, something that a lot of our local villages and towns are all about. But I think too much of the time we've seen that big government isn't the solution. It's getting back to the family and locals.
It's getting to be a pretty crowded race for governor in the state of Michigan. Pretty popular job. How are you doing? What are you hearing on the road?
Yeah, I mean, the more time we spend engaging voters, families, and seniors across the state, the better response we get. They appreciate the positive vision for Michigan, that we need to put students first, workers first, and families first. And the Michiganders just expect so much better out of Lansing. They know I'm somebody that keeps my word, somebody that'll work hard. As a farm boy, I never look at the clock to stop working. I always look at it, when do you get the job done? And having a young family with 3 young kids, we're in the fight right now. We know the importance of making sure that we leave a better state for the next generation. I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 7-week-old, Margot Louise. She's just a wonderful addition to the family.
7 weeks old. Sleeping through the night?
So sometimes it's better to say nothing than to say something. Last Thursday, I got up and I told my wife, Trish, I'm like, wow, you only got up once last night. And my wife reminded me, you only got up once last night. Margot got up 3 times last night.
Oh, man. We should probably talk about what's happening in Lansing. How are things going with the divided houses?
Well, right now, what we've seen over the last 5 months is one where House Republicans continue to provide, I think, a clear path forward on education and infrastructure, on right-sizing state government and getting state workers back into the office. And what you've seen from the Senate Democrats is really not any big policies going forward. They really don't know how to respond with a divided government. My hope is that we can tackle some of these toughest issues, such as or needed issues, such as solving our infrastructure issues and working to create better opportunities for vocational education. I was listening to Mike Rowe a few weeks ago, Dirty Jobs, the host there.
He's great.
He gave a very stark statistic in saying that for every 5 folks retiring from the trades, there's only 2 new people taking their place in the trades. And this is why I'm going to be making vocational education a real center part of the campaign, is because my oldest brother, for example, he spent his junior year over at the Van Buren Vocational Education Center learning diesel mechanics, spent his senior year working work cooperative at a farm implement dealership, and he had a job on day one. And unfortunately, with what we have in terms of these one-size-fits-all mandates out of Lansing, is you don't have those same kind of opportunities right now.
Yeah. 2 more questions. So once again, the pitch for the tractor. Can anyone show up for these tractor talks?
Absolutely. Any listeners can showing up Friday, May 30th. We start at 8 a.m. in Cass County. That's at Moser Water Well Drilling on M60 in Cassopolis. Then at 1 p.m., we'll be at Yoder's Country Market in Centerville. That's over in St. Joe County. And then we'll end Friday at Occasions in Coldwater at 5:30 p.m. And then on the next day, on Saturday, we'll be in Cement City, Adrian, and Dundee. Anybody who wants to find out more can go to nesbittforgovernor.com, and there'll be some information that's there. But yeah, folks from Berrien, Van Buren, Cass, come on over to Cassopolis, and as we make our way across, folks are more than welcome to attend. I'd love to shake your hands, answer any questions that you have, and listen to any suggestions or comments that you may have. It's going to take all of us working together to fix this state, to get Michigan back on track, and that's something where I'm looking forward to having real conversations with real people across the border counties here in Michigan.
Last question. That is an impressive bookcase behind you. That's not just a fake background, right? That's a real bookcase.
I think so. Yeah.
What's your favorite book there? What are you pulling out?
There's here we go. We got a few from Donald Trump. Think big.
Oh, there you go.
We got another one. Trump never give up. So
those autographed?
I don't know if those are or not, but I think Leadership by Rudy Giuliani is. We got a few of them. So
we're gonna. I'm envisioning a new segment, Eric's bookcase, with
good mix.
Senate Republican leader Aric Nesbitt and gubernatorial candidate Aric Nesbitt. Hey, thank you for joining us. Thanks for humoring us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on. God bless you.